Happy Sunday, y'all. So, here we go. Okay, so after reading the hundreds of comments on yesterday's videos, a recurring question kept coming up. Something along the lines of, well, what are we going to do about it? Okay, coming up with an answer is never easy, and God knows if I knew, I'd probably be the one moving into 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue next month, or in January at least. However, I do have a couple of ideas. Okay, we prep like this, right? Okay, we anticipate problems, we figure out solutions, or we at least try to. That's what makes us all tick. Okay, we prep for the worst, we pray for the best, and we try to make sense of things the rest of the time. Okay, so imagine this. So it's 2021. The U.S. is $27, $28 trillion in debt, and Congress decides to impose a series of taxes on the American public to help pay those debts. Okay? They call it the Digital Act of 2021, and it taxes all citizens on virtually every piece of internet communication they use, from emails to Facebook posts to tweets to YouTube videos. Okay? The government feels these taxes are justified since much of its debt was incurred for paying for things on the public's behalf. Okay? The citizens, however, disagree. Okay, they are furious at being taxed without having any representation in Washington, because they feel that the recent elections were corrupt and feel it's wrong for Congress to impose more taxes on them just to gain revenue to fund things that they don't believe in anyway. Okay. So, after some bickering and everything, Congress eventually repeals all the other taxes it had imposed on the citizens, except the email tax. Okay, it wasn't about to give up tax revenue on the nearly 111.8 quadrillion emails that Americans send each year. Okay, in protest, the citizens boycott the domestic ISPs, leaving companies like Google and Comcast and AT&T and Cox and everybody nearly bankrupt. Okay, so later in the year, Congress passes the Email Act, which creates a government ISP to provide internet to the citizens for free, which is obviously much cheaper than the other ISPs, but it still taxes the emails when they're sent. Okay? Internet smuggling in the country increases, although the cost of the smuggled internet services soon surpassed that of the combined cost of the free ISP services and emails, including the tax. Okay? Still, with the help of a bunch of prominent ISP smugglers who protested this taxation without representation, but also wanted to protect their ISP smuggling operations, citizens continue to rail against the email tax and Congress's control over their interests. Okay? In come the Patriots of America. They're a group of merchants and working-class people founded to protest the Digital Act and other forms of taxation, okay, kind of like the Tea Party was back 20 years ago. They hold meetings rallying against Congress, and they protest outside the government's ISP headquarters. After a couple of days of protests, as thousands of citizens convene to have their voices heard, a meeting's held where a large group of citizens vote to refuse to pay taxes on emails or even allow emails to be sent through the government's network. That night, a large group of men, many supposedly part of the Patriots of America group, disguise themselves, enter the headquarters building, and shut down all the servers that handle all the email traffic. It takes nearly 3 hours for more than about 100 Patriots to shut down all the servers. No one's hurt, and aside from rendering the servers useless, no property's damaged, nothing's looted during the raid, the participants even lock the door as they leave. Does anyone recognize that story? It's the story of the Boston Tea Party. Just, I kind of updated it to the 21st century. Okay. You see, there are people willing to do whatever it takes to make things right, and history proves it. Okay. We've all learned the story about the Boston Tea Party when we were in school, and if it wasn't for that group of around 100 men, we'd have never had the American Revolution, and we may still be under the rule of England, kind of like Canada. Okay. Now, I'm not advocating a march on the government ISP because obviously I made that part of it up, But what I'm saying is we need to be active and vocal in our opposition to everything, okay? To the COVID treatments, okay? To the World Economic Forum, to socialism, to communism, to AOC, to Joe Biden, to Kamala Harris, to every single one of them, okay? The left has perfected this art. They protest everything. They come out in force. Their political representatives will say and do anything to get their way. It's time for the silent majority to open their mouths already. It's time for the left to get a dose of their own medicine. We need representatives who actually have a pair, okay? Who don't care about pissing off the other side. We need people who are willing to fight for what they believe is right and not try to negotiate everything and inevitably sell us out, okay? You know, I look around the prepper channels that I follow. Alaska Prepper and Angry Prepper have about 80,000 subscribers apiece. Magic Prepper has 50,000. Prepper Nation has nearly 30,000. TJ Preps has 8,000. Prepper Now and I have 4,000, 5,000-ish, okay? And there's a ton more out there, okay? That's a lot of voices that can spread the word and get the silent majority to start speaking, okay? What if all of us started talking to our neighbors, our churches, our coworkers, our social circles, and got them on board to flood Washington and tell them that the U.S. wants nothing to do with the World Economic Forum and we don't want the Great Reset? What if we actually stopped giving our money to people that openly hate us? What if we actually stood up for what we believed in rather than hiding behind a computer or a screen name? What if we inundated our conservative state and federal representatives and called them out for selling us down the river? What if we kept our money local and stopped feeding the giant companies that could give a rat's ass about anything other than profit? What if we started showing up at town halls? Okay. 20 years ago, the Tea Party gained prominence. They got massive amounts of news coverage and ushered in anti-tax representatives to Congress. Lately, Antifa and BLM have gone radical, and they've garnered tons of coverage, and they ushered in plenty of radical leftists into Washington. It's time we all stand up for what we believe in and tell the world that we are not going to comply. We are not going to stand down, we will not be guinea pigs, and we are not going to surrender, okay? 250 years ago, a lot of brave men and women stood up for their beliefs and their actions made us the country we are today, okay? One day, your great-grandchildren are going to be reading history books. And what are they going to read about 2020? Will they say, my great-grandma and grandpa helped save the country? Or will they say, I wish my great-grandpa and grandma would have stood up to the evil in the world so we didn't have to live like this, okay? I'm sure damned happy that those people who fought back 250 years ago, they fought a revolutionary war for what they believe in. I pray to God we don't have to go that far, but when did we all become such a bunch of pacifists? That's sure not the American spirit I know. Pinball out.